the Saturday Live. Richard.
Outside Broadcasting House to meet a cabbie and his fare. The former is Ian Parsons, one of those supporting the taxi charity for military veterans, which takes veterans of the D-Day landings and the advance to the Rhine to Normandy, leaving tomorrow, and on board is his fare, Frank Ashleigh, 93, who was one of the glider pilots dropping paratroopers at Arnhem in the Netherlands, one of the fiercest battles of the Second World War. I've already got your age wrong, is that right?
Age is wrong, and we can drop parachutes. No parachutes being gliders.
Oh, I see.
You can't drop a paratroop out of a glider. You can't drop anybody out of a glider because nobody in a glider had a parachute.
That's rather an alarming thought. All the more grateful that you're here to celebrate this reunion in Normandy. But Frank, I understand it's the first time you've been back to that theatre of conflict.
Not the first time I've been back, because I've never been there before. I was too young to go to Normandy on D-Day. I was actually in training, flying a glider in training.
You've had the opportunity to return before, but I understand this is the first time you're taking it.
Yes, I refused to go. I've been asked many times, but each time I said, I'm not going to Normandy. I wasn't there. I'm not going to go and take somebody else's glory.
So what's different? Why have you decided this time to make the trip?
Mainly because there are so few glider pilots left. There's only, I think, about 40 of us still living out of the total of 1,300 there were to start with.
And so, Ian, does that give an extra poignancy to this trip, simply because the numbers of people who were veterans at D-Day is a diminishing number?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Clearly, this is the last trip that we can do of its size. Certainly, we hope to do another trip again in the future, but we're looking at around about 100 Second World War veterans in 90 taxis, a total party of over 300 people actually, and putting something like that together takes a lot of time and money, and for that reason we're looking at this as being the last trip of this nature. How did you actually meet Frank? Well, funnily enough, I first met Frank actually here at the BBC. We did another interview, didn't we, last year, Frank? Mm-hmm. And although Frank was on our trip when we were in Holland a couple of years ago, we did a trip back there which we called Return of the Liberators. I actually was driving another veteran at the time, so I didn't actually get to meet Frank until last November here, funnily enough. Yeah.
Arnhem, one of the toughest battles of the Second World War, Frank. What do you remember of it?
Everything. Simple as that. I was on the second lift on the Sunday. I was on a patrol the following day and was cut off behind enemy lines and took shelter in the roof of a church, and we were there for 4 days. I won't say what we were doing, but I think you can probably imagine we were doing our duty, until eventually one of us was shot, surrendered and told the Germans that there were 3 more upstairs, and they gave us 5 minutes to come out before they started throwing grenades. And so we disabled our weapons and put our hands up. That's all we could do. You can't throw your life away. You cannot throw your life away.
And you were a prisoner of war thereafter?
I was a prisoner of war there from September until the following May.
It's difficult to imagine how you cope with memories of being involved in something as dramatic and indeed traumatic as being involved in action. Going back there, does it lay any ghosts for you, or does it perhaps provoke stuff that's uncomfortable to think about?
For more years than I care to think, I wouldn't talk about anything to do with the war at all. If anything was German, I wouldn't touch it, let alone buy it. But my wife persuaded me that I was wrong and I should really tell my sons what I was doing, what happened to me, and gradually I did. And now I go back to Arnhem every year. I love going back there. I'm as much at home in Holland as I am in England. And the people love us and we love them.
And is Frank's experience typical, Ian, of people returning to a place which must have had such a hugely formative effect in their lives?
Yes, I think so. And actually, what Frank was saying about not talking about his experiences in the war until much later, I think that applies to a lot of the veterans that we're taking, and also the kind of reception that they will be receiving when we go to Normandy will be absolutely wonderful. So.
Well, we wish you a very good trip. Thank you both, Ian Parsons and Frank Ashleigh, and they're setting off for France in cabbie convoy tomorrow morning.
Richard, thank you.